But let's start the program this week with the massive data hack at Optus and the way it spiralled out of control for the company as it dawned on everybody that the 9.8 million compromised identities will affect every business and every government department. Edward Boyd wraps up a week that Optus would prefer to forget but won't be allowed to for a very long time.
It's odd. When the Optus data breach happened Thursday last week, it wasn't the biggest news event. Optus and its chief executive Kelly Bayer-Rosmarin seemed to have it covered.
We are very confident that this was a sophisticated attack.
At the time, Optus said the hacker stole 9.8 million customer records, including names, phone numbers, email addresses, and some driver licence and passport numbers. But cybersecurity experts and the government had their doubts, claiming the attack was not complex. Rather, it was Optus at fault for allowing the hacker to opportunistically steal the information.
What is of concern for us is how what is quite a basic hack was undertaken on Optus. We should not have a telecommunications provider in this country which has effectively left the window open for data of this nature to be stolen.
Once they have this information, fraudsters will be able to establish new bank accounts, new investment accounts, new credit accounts, effectively using somebody else's identity to engage in nefarious activities.
Everything I've seen to date now indicates this was not a sophisticated crime. It was a crime, definitely. No one deserves to be victimised, including Optus, but it would appear to be a pretty minor technical problem that has led to a very serious loss of data that can never be returned to those individuals.
The problems and the publicity mounted for Optus. The hacker said they would release 10,000 names a day unless Optus paid a $1 million ransom for the volume of data stolen. It's surprising the hacker demanded such a small amount of money. They could have asked for much more. On Tuesday this week, the hacker released the personal information of 10,000 customers, again with the demand for $1 million. The Sky News business team revealed that within an hour of this release, the hacker had taken down the database of 10,000 names and, bizarrely, issued an apology to the people affected and to Optus. But Optus made an emphatic statement to us about whether it had paid the ransom. No, it said, it did not pay. But why the hacker so quickly disappeared has never and may never be answered. Optus's problems were far from over. That release of data showed valid Medicare ID numbers, something Optus had failed to disclose to the authorities and the minister.
So we do know that an awful lot of information, and Optus, to your point in the introduction, probably didn't necessarily tell the full story over the last several days when they were just talking about driver's licences and passports. As you said, there's Medicare numbers. There are obviously really interesting email addresses.
The government was furious. Claire O'Neill put enormous pressure on the company. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General chimed in as well.
We were concerned this morning about reports that personal information from the Optus data breach apparently also includes Medicare numbers. Medicare numbers were never notified as forming part of the breach. And I can say that Optus has a clear obligation to notify affected customers.
Optus eventually came clean, saying 14,900 valid Medicare ID numbers were stolen in the initial attack. The government believes 40% of Australia's population has been affected, and the government is now demanding that Optus pay for new passports and Medicare numbers for the Aussies affected. Some state governments waived fees for the issuing of new driver licences.
VicRoads and the Department of Transport have made it clear that we will issue licences to anybody who's been affected by the Optus hack. We're also going to seek some compensation from Optus because this is on them.
Have they said they'd pay? We haven't heard from them.
We've said that they should pay. The Prime Minister's made that clear. The Foreign Minister has also written to Optus asking for Optus to accept the cost of replacing passports if that is what is required. We haven't yet had a response from Optus.
To make matters worse for the Optus CEO, parent company Singtel's board were in Australia this week for a board meeting to watch the whole thing unfold. A front row seat to the crisis. And by late this week, Singtel broke its silence. It was committed to its customers' security, but equally, the statement said it remains committed to its chief executive, Kelly Bayer-Rosmarin, and her team.